Hello again in this video about Maya 2022. So we had a video now. We did cover kind of the general modeling, the general shading, and a bit of rendering from scratch. I'm just gonna spend the video talking about lighting. So lighting is a really different area. So I'm gonna still use Arnold. We can use a lot of other type of renderer. They all have lighting stuff. So lighting, we're gonna create a sphere, but Arnold shader like the standard surface. We're gonna put it black with a very low roughness. So we're gonna create a light here. So we go in Arnold light and we have those 6 lights. So we're gonna cover those 6 lights. The first light is the area light. So area light is kind of the basic light. So imagine this plane is now like an emission of light. So if I press render here, I'm gonna increase the intensity to 100 to see well. And I don't know if we can see the light. I'm sure it's hiding by default now. Okay, so this is the reflection of this light on the scene. Basically, this light, if I put maybe another type of shape like a disc and I press render, you can see now is a shape of a disc here. So this is the reflection of this on this object. If you scale up like this and you render, you can see the shape now is way bigger. So lighting is, so the area light is basically this side of the plane where there is this arrow, is where the light is gonna be emitting. So we're gonna place those lights. We can copy the light. So I just press Shift D, I rotate, I put in the sphere here another time, and now when I'm gonna press render, I'm gonna just send the scale and intensities. Maybe this one is gonna be a red light, this one gonna be a blue light. So when we are here and we press render, we have now those 3 different lights hitting this same sphere. I'm just gonna create now a dome light and put this to 0.5 just to have a low overall lighting on the scene. Now you can understand what's happening on this sphere. Basically, I have one little red light here hitting on the top, the big blue light on the left, on the right, and the white light on the left. So all this is the way you're gonna light scenes. You're gonna add different type of light in your scene to add datas, gonna allow you to reveal your object. So this is something we can go deeper if you have some questions, but this is the way you can use to light your scene, you see. So area light is in Arnold, like in many renderers, the kind of like go-to light to light a scene. The sky dome is more like the environment. So now if I unzoom, you see this sphere, all this is emitting light on the center based on the color here, intensity and everything. So if I go here and I put in the files a specific I don't know, I have like let's do luckily I don't have other object, but yeah, you see now the light is emitting like this kind of image I just put in. So if I render here, I don't know if it's gonna be out. Yeah, let's go inside the light, and you see it's gonna now reflect the overall stuff. You see those shoes, they come from the HDR. So HDR is high definition range, high range of the definition, I for image. So, and basically this is an image with a lot of data inside. So if you go into here and you put HDRI map, you're gonna see this kind of map. Well, this is like an example map, but let's put here and do like, this is not a proper HDR, but this is how they look like. Okay, so now we're gonna have a proper environment reflecting the sphere, you see. So this is the kind of stuff you're gonna use to simulate like an external environment, internal environment, and many type of stuff you want to work with. So this is pretty handy. Now we're gonna go into the mesh light. So imagine you have another sphere here, like a little sphere, and you want this to emit light. So we go on the sphere and we do mesh light, and now this sphere is actually having all the parameters of a light. And if you render here, you're gonna see now you have this point here. So I'm just gonna make this closer here and bigger with a higher intensity. Oops. Yep. And now we can see here there is the light from this source here. If I shape it very weirdly, like I shape it like this, and I re-render, I'm gonna have, you see, the whole shape of the banana here. So if I do 100 and I put this to yellow, I'm gonna have like this banana shape here coming from this emitting light on the sphere. So this is a way to use geometry as light as well. That can be a way. Light portal is when you use HDRI and you want this to be like on your window to like absorb the rays and transmit them from the portal. So it's gonna help when you have like a close render with some sky and you want the sky to go in your scene. And finally, the physical light. So this is, so I don't know if the physical light, let me check. Ah yeah, it's a dome light as well. Okay, so we're not gonna go into this one. You're gonna just need to put object, area lights, and HDR. So this is gonna be enough for you to light a scene and have very good like results. So have a look on this. We're gonna just see more of the parameters of each light. So you can see the intensity. Exposure is just a multiplicator of the intensity. You can use color temperature, so it's not gonna use the temperature but this temperature of the color. So it's more something if you want something hot, cold, depend of like what kind of color you want. You can put luminance by default. You can say you can cast shadows and the visibility on the camera. So you see it's put to 0 by default, so that's good because back in the time all this will be put to 1. So if I put all this to 1 and I press render, you can see the light on the render. So that's not really what we want, right? But that's something we can have. You see this white here and maybe this red disk here. Now they became in the render. So that's something we want to play with. We don't want to see light by default, so that's why they put this to 0. So that's good. We just don't want that, okay? Just for you to understand, and you can affect all the type of stuff in the shader from the light. If you want this to avoid the transmission, the specular, SSS and stuff, you can see here, and you can do some filters. So this is more advanced, but you can put like specific rules to have like light touching specific object and not others. So that's kind of a way to like set up your scene, okay? So this is what you want to know in the lighting. Now we're gonna look at the renderer. So here in the render settings, render Arnold, you have here what we call the camera AA. So basically every render has a way to render. This one, you're gonna like the sample is based on this. So more this is high and more you're gonna have sample. Sample is like the noise. You want less noise because there is more rays bouncing on your scene. I may be explaining this a bit simply. but just for you to understand that here it's the way to add kind of like quality on the noise on your scene. So you can adapt this, you can focus on like spec, maybe you have some noise in the specular, you want more bounce here. So this is the way you work on the renderer. For the default and for the beginners, I really want you to don't focus on that too much, because this is something you're gonna use more for advanced image or like studio renders, but you can always have a look at the Arnold documentation and have like and see exactly how this gonna work. It's gonna be way more helpful than a video, because this gonna cover very like technical and physical stuff on your scene. Same for the environment. If you want atmosphere and stuff, this is something I would advise you to look at the documentation. AOVs, so AOVs basically when you do an image like this, you can separate the datas. So for example, if I put the, let's say specular at this, I render here. So I don't know if I can see this on the render, but let's say so I don't know how to see the specific AOR we put, but when we're gonna send this image in the batch renders, we're gonna have basically a image with only the specular of the image. So that's good to separate for compositing later. So here you have access to all your AOVs you need, and you can have the custom ones if you have some stuff you have from, I don't know, a studio or from something you want to do very specifically. But normally all this is what your compositor or what you want to composite after for your image. So you have a lot of stuff to play with. Okay. So this is the way to do lighting and renders. So in Maya here on the file output, we're gonna set up the color space, the type of compression, the format. If it's animation, so here we put single frame exterior. So but if we put this is now considered as an animation with the extension, the name, and the paging. So paging is like image 01, image 02, depending on your image here. So here if you want from 1 to like 200, you're gonna have the 200 image of your renders. And when you set up the scene, like I teach you in the other scene, so here you want to set up maybe here in the Maya scene tutorial. So now when you save your scene, you know you're gonna go directly into the Maya scene tutorial, but you have an image folder. So here if I do, let's say 10 image, and I do now in rendering, I have access to this render stuff, and I do a batch render. Oh, I have to allow this to happen. Hop. Now he's gonna render 10 image based on what I sent to him. So if I go in my folder, this is on the Maya scene tutorial, the image. Here you have the image here, so you have the TMP, and you have beauty and specular. So what we call beauty is this image with all the datas, and the specular is just the AOV I put to have separate stuff. So now we can see it's writing image 1, image 2. So I didn't put a name, but this is the paging, and we are rendering OXR. And this later can go into your favorite compositing software, and you can play with those images. Okay. So that's for you to understand how to render stuff. Okay. So this is here, and this is on the background. You can see here is like image 05, percentage of rendering done, and this is the way to advance in your render. So you put the camera, you put the image size, the width, the height, and you can adjust this depending on your project. Okay. So if you have any question on the render, don't hesitate to ask me. I can't go more deeply into like the parameters and stuff, but for the render setting, I think it's important for you to read the documentation of each renderer you're using. It's pretty straightforward. For Arnold, it's very user friendly, but this kind of stuff is like, yeah, like set up the camera, put the frame, padding, image format, and press in rendering here on the tab. Render and batch render. And batch render, it means you're gonna launch like the script saying, okay, I want those 10 images to come. If you do just a single render current frame, just gonna render the current frame, write it on the set project. So that's why the set project is important, because that's where you're gonna write all your images, and from there continue. So here, as you see, you put straightly in the render path here on the image, but you can put a prefix like this is the first image. So now if you go here, you're gonna see now it's gonna call first image 01, first image 02, and you can like put a prefix in everything. And as well, you can do like maybe a folder or create specific naming just for that. Okay, so if you have any question on the renderer and on the lighting, don't hesitate to ask me, but this is the basic stuff you need to know in Maya to start with. Okay, good luck with the rest, and don't hesitate to go on the Discord and ask me if you have specific questions. Okay, see you there, guys.